The world had long forgotten the sound of silence. It had been buried beneath the endless hum of machines, satellites, and a civilization that never truly slept. Yet in the vastness above Earth, in the cold silence between stars, an ancient signal whispered through the static of time, its origin older than language, older than civilization itself. When it reached Earth, it did not announce itself with violence. It arrived as a sound, one soft, reverberating syllable that defied translation. No language could hold it, and yet every person who heard it claimed it sounded like a name. The name was Elias. Dr. Rachel Kincaid was the first to detect it. Her hands trembled over the console as lines of data cascaded down the screen. The signal came not from deep space, as she first assumed, but from within Earth's own electromagnetic field, from somewhere below the surface. "Run it again," she whispered. Her assistant, a young linguist named Nathan Cole, obeyed. The waveform repeated. The name spoke again, faint but unmistakable, Elias. The word seemed to hum in Rachel's bones. Could it be some kind of coded broadcast? Nathan asked, trying to mask the unease in his voice. No, Rachel replied softly. It's biological. Look at the modulation pattern, it's almost like a heartbeat. Within hours, the discovery reached the upper echelons of world governance. The Crown Council, a clandestine organization older than most nations, summoned Rachel to London. She knew of them only through whispers, an elite group claiming direct descent from every royal bloodline that had ever ruled the earth. And now, they wanted her to explain why the oldest name ever spoken was echoing from beneath their feet. The jet touched down on a mist-covered runway outside London. A convoy of black vehicles awaited her. Within minutes, Rachel was driven through ancient gates into a private estate known as Arden Hall, the council's sanctum. The mansion seemed carved from time itself, its stone walls breathing history. Inside, portraits lined the grand hall, faces of kings, queens, and emperors from every corner of the world. Yet Rachel noticed something strange. In each portrait, whether Egyptian pharaoh or medieval monarch, there was a figure painted faintly behind them, the same man, always standing in shadow. His features were never clear, but his eyes were gray, ancient, and watching. At the far end of the table sat Lord Adrian Vance, the council's high regent. He looked barely 40, yet his voice carried the weight of centuries. Dr. Kincaid, he began, you found something that concerns every living descendant of the royal bloodlines, and perhaps every living soul on Earth. Rachel set down her laptop. The signal's repeating every 47 minutes. But it's not coming from space. It's being emitted from a location 2 miles beneath your estate. The room went deathly still. Lord Vance leaned forward. You mean Arden Hall itself is sitting atop the source? Yes. Whatever is down there has been active for at least 1,000 generations. Maybe longer. The council exchanged glances, their composed masks cracking ever so slightly. Finally, Vance spoke. You're not the first to find it. Rachel frowned. What do you mean? He gestured to an old parchment framed on the wall. It was brittle and yellowed, inscribed with words in an archaic script. It's called the First Charter, Vance said. Signed by the world's earliest rulers, Sumerian, Egyptian, Chinese, Mayan. It decreed that a single name must be preserved through all dynasties. The first name ever spoken by human lips. Rachel approached the parchment. The ink shimmered faintly, reacting to her presence. She traced the first line with her finger and froze. The name written there was Elias. Hours later, deep beneath Arden Hall, a steel elevator shuddered to a stop. Rachel, Nathan, and Lord Vance stepped into a cavern that hadn't seen light in millennia. The walls were carved with symbols that predated human history. In the center stood a sarcophagus made of black stone, perfectly preserved. It was found during the foundation of the first castle on this land, Vance said. Every royal family since has sworn to protect it. Rachel stepped closer. There were carvings along the lid spirals that resembled DNA strands, intertwining infinitely. This isn't burial art, she murmured. It's biological encoding. The air around them vibrated faintly, a pulse that matched the rhythm of a heartbeat. And then the name echoed again, no longer through speakers but through the air itself. Elias. Nathan stumbled backward. What the hell is that? Vance's eyes gleamed with both fear and reverence. That, he said, is the voice of our origin. The sarcophagus cracked open. A gust of ancient air filled the chamber, cold and heavy with centuries of silence. Inside lay a man perfectly preserved, skin pale as marble, veins faintly luminescent. He was neither alive nor dead, suspended in something between both states. Rachel's voice quivered. This can't be human. Vance shook his head. He's not a human. He is the human. The body stirred. The pulse grew louder, rattling the cavern's walls. Rachel's instruments screamed with data, temperature spikes, radiation bursts, electromagnetic anomalies. And then the eyes opened. Gray. Unfathomably ancient. He looked directly at Rachel. Not at the council, not at the man claiming royal descent, but at her. His lips parted, and a sound emerged like the first breath ever drawn on earth. Rachel, he whispered. Her blood ran cold. How does he know my name? She gasped. Vance turned pale. He doesn't, he said. He's remembering it. Before she could speak, the cavern lights flickered. The sound of machinery above ground, the hum of the modern world, seemed to dim, as if the planet itself were holding its breath. The man Elias rose slowly from the sarcophagus. And in that moment, every royal bloodline on Earth, from monarch to president, from dynasty to democracy, felt a tremor in their veins. A memory older than civilization itself stirred within humanity's collective soul. Because the one who had spoken the first name had finally spoken again. The world above did not yet know that history had taken its first breath again. Far beneath Arden Hall, in the heart of the ancient cavern, Elias stood, the man whose name had been the first one spoken. Dr. Rachel Kincaid's pulse hammered in her ears. Every instinct told her to run, but something greater, something primal, held her still. The air vibrated around the awakened figure like an invisible current. Dust shimmered, suspended in the glow emanating faintly from his veins. Lord Adrian Vance took a step forward, his voice reverent. Elias, the first one. Elias turned his gaze on him, eyes gray as ash, and in that gaze Adrian saw something that stripped away his composure, recognition. You, Elias said, voice deep and resonant. The fragments of my children. Adrian faltered. We are your descendants. Elias nodded once. Then the circle was not broken. Rachel's breath caught. You mean the royal bloodlines? Elias looked at her, and again she felt that inexplicable connection, as if he were seeing not her body but the echo of her soul. The kings, the emperors, the rulers of men, Elias said slowly. All were fragments of one seed. Mine. The blood of kings was never divine, it was human, purified, preserved, remembered. Nathan stepped forward, pale but defiant. You're saying every royal, every empire, traces back to you? Elias's expression softened. Not every human, young one. Only those who sought to rule. A deep hum reverberated through the walls. The carvings on the sarcophagus began to glow brighter, pulsing with the same rhythm as Elias's heartbeat. Rachel's sensors went wild. The energy levels are spiking. It's like he's drawing power from the Earth's core. Elias's gaze turned inward, pained. The core is not what you think. It was built a cradle for memory. I slept there until your kind learned to forget. Above ground, the council's guards stood watch as the mansion trembled slightly. Lord Vance's private earpiece buzzed. Sir, a voice said, strained, we've got seismic readings across Europe. They all trace back to your coordinates. Vance ignored the warning. He turned to Rachel. You will help us understand him. Whatever knowledge he holds, it belongs to the bloodline. Rachel squared her shoulders. No. It belongs to humanity. Before Vance could reply, Elias raised a hand. The air stilled. Humanity, he said quietly, was my creation. But it has forgotten why it was born. The lights flickered again, plunging them into shadow. In that instant, Rachel saw flashes of visions that weren't hers, a city of light under alien skies, 1,000 voices speaking in unison, and Elias standing at the heart of it all, holding something like fire, like language itself. When the lights steadied, Elias was trembling. Rachel whispered, "What did I just see?" "My memory," Elias said softly. "The First Kingdom. The place where words were born." Lord Vance approached him cautiously. "If what you say is true, then why awaken now?" Elias's eyes darkened. "Because the blood has been diluted. The circle is breaking. Soon, there will be none left to remember their origin, and when that happens, the flame will die." Rachel frowned. "What flame?" "The one that keeps your world alive," Elias said simply. "The flame of remembrance." Nathan exchanged a glance with Rachel. "He's talking in riddles." "No," Rachel murmured, "he's talking like a geneticist." She stepped closer to Elias, scanning him with her handheld analyzer. The readings were impossible, a DNA structure that defied all known biology, triple helixed instead of double, each strand encoded with light-reactive compounds. This is language embedded in genetics," she whispered. "Like his DNA is speaking." Elias smiled faintly. The first word spoken shaped the first cell. Speech was creation. The human tongue, divine only because it remembers. Lord Vance's composure began to crack. "If your blood is the source, then it must be protected. Preserved." Elias regarded him coldly. "You mean controlled." Vance didn't deny it. "Humanity is not ready for this truth." Rachel turned to him. "You're afraid of losing power." "Power," Vance said sharply, "built civilization. Without it, you have chaos." Elias moved suddenly faster than anyone expected. His hand brushed the sarcophagus, and a cascade of energy rippled outward. The carvings on the walls ignited with radiant light, revealing an enormous mural spanning the cavern. It depicted Elias surrounded by thousands of figures bowing before him, humans, yes, but also others. Taller, more luminous, their faces indistinct. At the mural's center burned a symbol, a spiral of flame interwoven with a crown. Rachel stared. "What is this place?" "The Covenant Chamber," Elias said. "Built when the first word was spoken, and the first oath sworn." Nathan's voice trembled. "Oath to what?" Elias looked toward the ceiling, his voice low and resonant. "To remember. To never let the world forget where it came from. Every dynasty, every throne, was born to guard that truth. But power corrupted memory, and memory became myth." A sudden rumble tore through the cavern. Cracks split across the walls. The sarcophagus began to sink as if drawn back into the earth. Rachel shouted, "What's happening?" Elias's tone hardened. "Someone above is trying to seal it again." Vance cursed under his breath. "The council. They're panicking." He turned to Elias. "You need to come with us. If they think you're a threat." Elias cut him off. "I am not a threat. I am the beginning." The tremors intensified. Chunks of stone rained down. Nathan grabbed Rachel's arm. "We have to move." But Elias didn't move. He placed his hand on Rachel's chest, not violently, but gently, as if bestowing something unseen. A warmth spread through her veins. "Your blood remembers, Rachel," he said softly. "You are of the first circle. That is why I spoke your name." Her knees nearly buckled. "What are you saying?" "That the last of my true line runs through you." Lord Vance stared in disbelief. "That's impossible." Elias turned to him, his voice thunderous. "You are the echo of kings, Adrian. She is their source." The words struck like lightning. Rachel could feel her heartbeat sinking with the rhythm of the chamber, with the pulse of the earth itself. Images flooded her mind, empires rising and falling, thrones burning, and always that same gray-eyed figure watching through the centuries. Elias's voice grew faint. "The flame must be rekindled. The world will forget soon. Only memory can save it." the cavern collapsed. Stone crashed between them as Rachel was pulled upward by the elevator's emergency winch. She screamed for Nathan, for Vance, for Elias, but the last thing she saw before the floor gave way was Elias raising his hand toward her, light bursting from his chest in a beam that cut through the darkness. Then silence. When Rachel awoke, she was in a field, dawn breaking over the misty hills of England. Arden Hall was gone. Nothing remained but a crater of molten glass. Her ears rang with the echo of a single word, carried on the morning wind. Remember. The wind carried the scent of burning stone. Rachel Kincaid rose unsteadily to her feet, ash falling like gray snow around her. Arden Hall was gone, swallowed whole by the earth. What remained was an enormous crater, edges glowing faintly, the air shimmering with residual heat. The memory of Elias's light still burned behind her eyes. Her veins still pulsed with something foreign, something ancient. She touched her chest where he had placed his hand. The warmth was still there, steady as a second heartbeat. Rachel! She turned sharply. From the tree-lean stumbled Nathan Cole, covered in dust and blood, but alive. Relief surged through her chest as he ran toward her. Thank God, he gasped. I thought you were dead. Same here, she breathed. Where's Vance? Nathan shook his head. Didn't make it. The ground just swallowed him. Like the earth wanted him gone. Rachel looked at the smoking crater. Maybe it did. The world reacted quickly. Within hours, satellite images of the crater flooded the dark web, sparking conspiracies. Governments cordoned off the site, citing a geothermal collapse. Rachel and Nathan went dark, hiding in an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of Oxfordshire. For 3 days, she didn't sleep. Her laptop glowed constantly with data streaming from the last surviving instrument she'd salvaged before the collapse. The readings were unlike anything in human science. Elias's energy signature was still active. Not buried. Not gone. Moving. Nathan leaned against the doorway, watching her type. You think he's still alive? Rachel didn't look up. I think he was never alive in the way we understand it. He frowned. You mean like energy? She nodded slowly. Or memory. Elias said the flame was remembrance, that humanity survives because it remembers its beginning. Nathan sighed. You sound like him. Maybe I'm supposed to. She glanced at her reflection in the laptop screen. Her eyes, once hazel, now shimmered faintly gray. On the 4th night, Rachel dreamed. She was standing in a void of light. Across from her stood Elias, unchanged, regal, sorrowful, infinite. Why show me this? She whispered. Because you carry what I once was, Elias said. And soon you must decide what I will become. What are you? He smiled faintly. The first echo. The word that made flesh. Rachel shook her head. I don't understand. Every civilization that ever rose, Elias said, was born from memory not of history, but of origin. When the first name was spoken, it bound creation to consciousness. I was that name. And I'm your descendant, she said quietly. He nodded. The last of the royal seed, untainted by the hunger for power. You are the memory uncorrupted. Rachel's voice trembled. Why me? Because the world is forgetting. The flame dims. The more humanity forgets its beginning, the faster its end approaches. You can restore the remembrance or let it die. She hesitated. How? Elias's gaze deepened. By speaking the first word again. Her heart pounded. The first word? The one that gave birth to all language. The one that shaped the human soul. But know this, once spoken, it will not only awaken the world, it will change it. Every mind will remember. Every lie will dissolve. Humanity will see itself as I saw it, beautiful, flawed, divine. Rachel's breath hitched. And if I don't? Elias looked away, sadness etching his features. Then memory will die. Civilization will collapse not in fire, but in forgetting. the light began to fade. "The word is inside you now," he whispered. "When the time comes, you'll know." Then she woke, heart racing, air cold against her skin. Nathan was shaking her shoulder. "Rachel, look outside." The horizon burned. Not with fire, but with light. Every major city on the planet shimmered with an aurora that pulsed in perfect rhythm, as though the Earth itself had developed a heartbeat. Nathan's voice was hoarse. "It's global. Every frequency we monitor is syncing. It's the same pattern from the cavern." Rachel's laptop pinged. The coordinates traced back to multiple points, ancient sites scattered across the globe: Giza, Machu Picchu, Xi'an, Stonehenge. The First Kingdom was awakening. Nathan grabbed his gear. "We have to go public. The world needs to see this." Rachel shook her head. "No. Not yet. The council won't let the truth out, they'll silence anyone who tries." "Then what do we do?" She looked up at the pulsing sky. "We finish what Elias started." They traveled to the Scottish Highlands, following the strongest pulse signal. The terrain was desolate, wind sweeping across black cliffs and rain-slicked stone. At dusk, they reached the ruins of an ancient circle, monoliths half buried in moss. The air hummed. Rachel stepped into the center. Her blood thrummed like thunder. "It's here," she said softly. Nathan checked his instruments. "Energy spike is off the charts. It's like the Earth's core is focusing here." Rachel closed her eyes. She could hear Elias faintly, like an echo through time. "Remember," he whispered. She dropped to her knees. The words formed on her tongue, foreign yet familiar, ancient yet intimate. It wasn't English, or any known language. It was pure sound, resonating through her bones, the sound of being itself. She opened her mouth and spoke it. The first word. The world stopped. Time fractured. The wind froze mid-gust. Raindrops hung suspended in the air like shards of glass. The stones blazed with white fire, symbols forming along their surfaces, the same spirals that had adorned Elias's chamber. Nathan screamed something she couldn't hear. His voice was lost in the hum. And then, silence. Rachel's body felt weightless. The world around her unfolded, not destroyed, but remembered. She saw cities as they had been millennia ago, the same lands before the first fires, before the first lie, before power. She saw Elias standing before her, smiling. "You've done it," he said softly. "You have remembered." "What happens now?" she asked. "The world awakens. Humanity will see its reflection, all truth, all memory. It will hurt them, but it will free them." His form began to dissolve into light. "Will I see you again?" Elias shook his head gently. "You carry me now." The light surged, blinding, infinite. And then it was gone. When the wind resumed, the sky above the highlands glowed golden. Nathan lay unconscious beside her, breathing shallow but alive. Rachel stood slowly. The stones were no longer cold rock, they pulsed with faint warmth, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Her phone buzzed. Dozens of notifications, breaking news, broadcasts from every corner of the planet. Global event continues, mass recall phenomena reported worldwide. People remember lives they never lived. Genetic researchers baffled DNA patterns changing across humanity. Rachel smiled through tears. The world remembered. She looked toward the rising sun and whispered the final words Elias had spoken to her, the truth of his name, the origin of them all. "I was the first one spoken, but I will not be the last." The wind carried her voice across the highlands, across oceans and continents, through the veins of a species reborn. And for the first time in 10,000 years, humanity remembered what it meant to be one.